Good morning, guys. We're going to get started. My name is Lisa Wise. I know most of you. I'm the elections administrator here in El Paso County. A couple years ago, right after I started, we started working with Disability Rights Texas and Molly Broadway to come out and do some trainings for us and talk about how we can best serve voters with disabilities and how we also can make sure our polling places are ADA compliant. So we do visits. She's done some visits Monday and Tuesday, and then she'll end her trip here with this training. And this is provided free of charge from Disability Rights Texas, so it's a really great program, and we hope to continue to work with her. But this is Molly, so I hope that you guys gain some good information, and of course we'll have questions and stuff at the end. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Yay! This is the cherry on top of my trip, y'all. Thanks for letting me save you for last. Some of you may remember me. Some of y'all look familiar from the last time I was here. Some of you may be wondering who the heck I am, and that's cool. I ask myself that question every day. This is just going to be a review. One of the services we provide at Disability Rights Texas is we like to talk to people who are working at the polls on how to best serve voters with disabilities. Sometimes we get a lot of questions about what's the best way to interact with a person with a disability, or can I even ask if they have a disability? What do I do? What are the accommodations that they can receive? And so we try to provide as much information as possible at one of these trainings, but then also know that we're available year-round. I'm available if you ever have any questions. And, you know, I work with the elections office, and so they ask me to come every couple years, and it's always a glorious experience for me. So I'll be back. Have any of you ever heard of Disability Rights Texas before? We used to be called Advocacy Inc. All right, so y'all, you shook your head. Tell me about what you know about Disability Rights Texas. Lady in the blue.
Well, I know you've been here before with us.
That's true.
I know that you helped us out quite a bit.
Good.
And I thought it went hand in hand with American Disabilities Act, ADA.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, long story short is in 1975, Congress passed this act that says every state needs what's called a protection and advocacy agency to help protect the civil rights of people with disabilities, because beforehand that didn't exist. And so, long story short, here we are now. Disability Rights Texas is the protection and advocacy agency for the state of Texas. So, a short layman's explanation of what we do is we provide free legal services and other advocacy services to protect the rights of people with disabilities in the state of Texas. Part of what we do is we received money from, well, we're a statewide agency, I guess I should tell you that first. So we serve the entire state of Texas. We have offices in Lubbock, El Paso, yay! Austin, Houston, San Antonio, and some other smaller satellite offices throughout the state. So that being said, if there's an issue and you think that it's too far for us to get to you, it's not at all, because this is what we do. Let's see. Looks like I covered a lot of that. We received, so back when, is anybody familiar with the Help America Vote Act? Oh, good. What a learning opportunity. The Help America Vote Act. You remember the, what was it, the 2001? Was it the 2001 election with Bush and Gore? 2000. Time is fluid. So you remember the hanging Chad incident. Okay. So from that experience, Congress and the House passed some laws, or passed some legislation called the Help America Vote Act. And the whole goal of that was to make voting more accessible, more plausible for people of every ability. So we got some money from the Help America Vote Act, and basically our job is to ensure that people with disabilities have full access to the privilege and right of voting. And that can mean making accommodations, physical accommodations for them, or having them bring assistants in with them. The electronic voting machines, you remember you used to do the paper punch card, now we have electronic voting machines. That's because of the Help America Vote Act. Because those machines allow, they have audio versions so that people can listen to what the ballot has to say. You've probably seen some of this happen. They're easier to mark, and there's a tracking system for that as well, all sorts of stuff. So that's what's going on. Part of what we do with some of that money is like Lisa said, we provide polling site inspections. We do trainings for individuals within the community to talk about their voting rights and the accommodations they can receive. And we also do trainings with poll workers like y'all to let you know what's going on. How long do I have, by the way? Okay, so we're good. I'm going to tell you all about it. But we also, part of what we do is I'll respond to, we have a statewide toll-free voter rights hotline. And so phone calls will come to us in real time. So if someone's voting and they are experiencing a problem, they can call us, or poll workers aren't quite sure what to do, they can call us and we try to solve that problem in as much real time as possible. People just generally have questions, we're there to answer them for them. And it's open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and then we really pay attention during election time. But chances are when you call it, you're going to talk to me or my coworker. So it's a real person thing. It's not just an answering machine most of the time. We also respond to legislative inquiries. So if legislators have questions about voting or any other disability-related issues, we try to help them out as much as possible. So that's basically Disability Rights Texas in a very confined version. Do y'all have any questions about that? Okay. So some interesting stats about disability rights and other cocktail party conversation topics you can cover. In case you're wondering if you ever had questions about this, disability, the definition of disability is defined as a physical, mental, or sensory condition that limits major activities of daily living. So that could be, seeing, hearing, walking, just getting out and being able to function. So basically, that's what defines something as a disability, if it impedes your daily functioning on some level. Obviously, there are physical disabilities, which people can spot out pretty easily, but there's also disabilities that we say are invisible. Like I picked on you earlier, you said, I offered you some candy, and you said you had diabetes. I said, it doesn't look like you have diabetes. Well, I did it on purpose. So, and that's the whole point, because sometimes when I go to do polling site inspections, I'll work with the election officials and their staff. And they'll say, well, people come to vote, but it doesn't look like they have a disability. So, they can get into the building just fine, so why should I even bother? Well, that's the whole point. I'm sure there's, you could call me as someone who has an invisible disability. I have an anxiety disorder, and probably a lot of other stuff that people would be happy to tell you about that I'm not aware of. But, but you can't see that. Like, I basically look pretty collected most of the time, but underneath, I'm just nervous ball of anxiety and energy, not knowing what to do with myself. I mean, there may be people who are able to identify with that issue in this room. Maybe not. I don't want to put you on the spot, but there's that. Can I? Absolutely. Oh, let's get the mic. Oh, look, here we go. Here, I can take that.
Okay, can you hear me? That okay? Okay. In our precinct, okay, now I consider it a disability. We have a voter who cannot read.
Okay.
So, it was
impedes
an
their
embarrassing situation. It was an embarrassing situation the first time she came in.
Okay.
She didn't want to bring it up. We processed her okay, and we just pointed where to sign. But when she went up to the machine, we could tell immediately there was some distress and could I get some help? And she was totally lost now. But I mean, that doesn't really walking, talking, seeing, hearing, and concentrating. It's kind of a gray area when you talk about that. But in my opinion, that would be
Well,
I think that's a disability.
I can add reading onto the slide.
No, you don't have to.
Okay. But you're right. I mean, it's little things like that. It basically impedes your functionality in your daily life. And so just because it's not on that list doesn't mean it doesn't exist, for sure. So what did y'all do about that?
Well, we filled out a form, and I read the ballot for her.
Okay. Would she have been comfortable using the earphones?
I think so, but it was just easier.
To just read it to
And
her?
I know her. She's from
Okay.
other things. So
Okay.
yeah, I just read it for her.
Cool. And that's great. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that kind of goes into some stuff we're going to talk about later, is don't be afraid to ask. I know there's a lot of trepidation about, like, I don't want to offend somebody to ask them if they need help, or I don't want to ask if they have a disability, or like what kind they have. Basically, my rule is I treat others like I want to be treated. If I feel like maybe like in the situation of the voter you talked about, it's not something I'm fond of discussing, is like I can't read very well, but if you kind of see that there's an issue, maybe even ask, hey, would you be more comfortable if someone read the ballot to you, if you listen to the ballot on some earphones at our accessible voting machine? What can I do to best serve you? Because that person's always going to have the best answer. Yes.
I just want to add real quick to that. And that's a complaint, or that, I went to vote and maybe I have a hard time reading the ballot. I'm not. But maybe I have a hard time. Maybe I have a hard time reading the ballot, but you're there with your husband or you're there with your sister, and instead of addressing it with the voter, you turn to the person with them and say, can they read the ballot, or do they need additional help? So what I want to make sure that we're doing, because this is the kind of the repeating issue that we get from disabled voters, is that they don't address me. They're not either comfortable addressing me, or they turn to the person I'm with and say, can they fill out a ballot themselves? Do they need additional help? And so I just want to make sure that we are addressing the issue with them. And that's a perfect example of, yes, would you like to have the ballot read to you? Would you like to use the headphones? Both of those are great options, but I just want to make sure that when we're doing that, we're directing those questions at the actual voter, okay?
Because chances are, yes, it's going to be awkward to ask that question for you, but it's going to be more awkward if the person doesn't have the tools they need to vote appropriately or successfully. So some interesting trivia. According to some stats that I've looked at, there's an estimated, in the state of Texas, in the state of Texas right now, there's an estimated 2 million voters with disabilities. So just let that soak in. I put that number out there just to let you know that sometimes a lot of counties or a lot of precincts will think, well, there's nobody in our precinct or in our county who goes to a polling site that has a disability. And I think the numbers by themselves kind of say otherwise. So, yes?
What's the whole population?
Oh, that's a good question. It's really big.
What is the population of Texas?
So the population of Texas, I could have told you probably 2 days ago, but I don't know off the top of my head now. But I know that I took that number because according to the U.S. Census, like there's a certain percentage of people in each state that have a population, or that have a disability. And so we just multiplied that percentage by I think it's like 4 million or 5 million, something like that. It's way more than the amount of people that live in my house. 3 million people as of last year? 28, that's much better. Yeah, so there you go. So it's a big state, it turns out, with a lot of people in it. Thank you. And so in the 2016 presidential election in Texas, there's about 51.5% of people who voted that had a disability. And I think the statewide percentage of people who voted in that election was like 70%. So we're a low, as you know, we're a low voter turnout state, but even with those numbers, we still have a pretty large disability community of people that are going out and voting. We kind of talked about the Help America Vote Act a little bit. The ADA, I'm going to refer to it as that. I mean the Americans with Disabilities Act. Obviously, it's there to help treat people in a non-discriminatory way, to make sure that they have all the accommodations. Basically, treat people how you want to be treated. Everybody wants access to get into a building. Everybody wants access to do to do the tasks they show up to do, basic sort of thing. And sometimes some of us need tools. It's like at home, I'm not tall, believe it or not, I'm not tall enough to reach up at the top shelf of my pantry. So I have to get a step stool to do that. That's an accommodation, I can't reach that far. I gotta get on the ladder and reach it. So that's an accommodation. We all want access to do the tasks that we set out to do. So that's basically it. Some of those examples of your rights that are involved when voting are the right to vote privately and independently, to have your polling place physically accessible and free of barriers, to have access to an accessible voting machine, to receive assistance or support from a person of your choice. You can bring somebody with you or a poll worker. And also, you have the right to be accompanied by a service animal and to be treated with respect and courtesy. You know, kind of your golden rule sort of stuff. So there is that. When I talk about accessibility, we've been talking about it over and over again. Do you have general questions about what I mean? We can do a definition of it. If I'm spouting out a lot of words, just let me know. I'm happy to clarify. Basically, accessibility falls under the Americans with Disabilities Act Title II. There's a bunch of different titles. But accessibility is the main thing that deals with Title II, with the Title II topics. This is basically making sure that public entities ensure access to people with disabilities to get in to the building and access the services. Accessibility in general is defined as a means of approach or admission. It's the opposite of segregation, basically. That's what I like to say. I think if you look it up, it even says that in the dictionary. A lot of people ask me about churches or other private groups that are involved with voting. So basically saying churches, private groups such as churches are not held to the same federal standards as public entities are. But when they choose to participate in public events like voting and things like that, they have to adhere to the accommodation and the ADA standards because that's part of the deal. So like when you're voting and if you're voting at a church and it's not accessible, the church may say, well, we don't have to adhere to those ADA standards, but you do if it's a polling site. So either the polling site will need to be moved to make it accessible, to find an accessible location, or there's accommodations that need to be made structurally. Also, accessibility just in general is making sure we all have equal opportunity and availability to exercise our daily living activities and our civil rights. So basic stuff. The world seems to make it a little more complicated than it actually is, but that's basic. Have any of y'all had any experiences like that where you've gone somewhere and been denied an opportunity to do the intended task because of one reason or the other? Oh, okay. You certainly don't have to share if you don't want to, but let me see if I have one. I'm sure there's something. I'll come up with it in a minute, but just think about that. So like, let's think about, so something I see a lot is when I inspect polling sites, there's a lot of ramps. Obviously, there's ramps into every building to help people who have a mobility assistance device get into the building versus using the stairs. A lot of ramps are just, there's a standard measurement that ramps have to be compliant. A lot of ramps are just over that compliance standard. And a lot of people will say to me, well, it's not that steep looking. But what you don't know is like, it's just over that barrier enough. Like if you use a walker or you're in a wheelchair or whatever, it's just steep enough that you're forcing a lot of undue stress on your body, or things will tip back. Like your wheelchair can tip back. Your walker may not go all the way if you don't have enough strength to push it forward. There's a guy I know who uses a wheelchair, and there's a ramp at his polling site, and it's just steep enough to where it's an issue. So it doesn't meet compliance standards. And he's like, it's not that big of an issue when you look at it. It looks pretty manageable. But he's in an electric wheelchair, and he's like, I can go up that, but there's a certain point in the ramp where the motor isn't strong enough to go up that ramp. So I need help to be pushed. And then he's like, and then when you turn around on the ramp, the turn radius isn't large enough, so he has to basically hop his wheelchair over this bump that exists. And that's a lot of work, you know? So it's little things like that. Yes, sir. Oh, we'll wait for the mic.
As poll workers, do we have a responsibility to measure those and determine degrees or grades?
No, you do not. That is the county's job. That's why I'm here, unless y'all have another opinion. But your job is basically to help the person cast their ballot. That's all you got. Oh, Lisa has a comment. Would you like a piece of candy?
So, yeah, it's not your guys' job. The only thing I would ask is that if you ever have somebody who comes in to vote at the polling site and has a concern or a complaint and says, you know, I think that ramp is off, or I can't turn around, as a lot of times the door is too heavy. We've done a lot of things in the last couple of years, from having Molly visit, from complaints from voters, that you just keep record of that and let us know as soon as possible, because we've had doors changed out, we've had ramps put in, we've had parking fixed. So anytime we get a complaint, we definitely move on it. So it's not your responsibility as the poll worker to know what degree the ramp has to be at, know how big the turnaround has to be. We have people here in the county, an actual ADA specialist who works with facilities, and she comes out and measures stuff for us after Molly leaves and things like that. So what your job is, obviously, is to accommodate them as best as possible, but then also to report that information to us as soon as possible.
Good answer. Someone's going to get a piece of candy for that answer, and good job.
I have a question
Yes.
regarding the distance that people have to walk, because at our site, things have changed with the management
Okay.
and their rules.
Okay.
So they have one entrance in, and they have to come in through the main entrance and then walk a long distance. It's kind of, to me, it's not that long, but
Right.
to somebody that's handicapped, it may be. They want to use the outer door,
Okay.
and we're not allowed to.
Okay.
So how can we fix that?
Oh. I think we're working on that issue. Which, it was the YMCA?
The YMCA.
Okay, yeah. So we were actually looking at that, and I can say to you that the Americans with Disabilities Act states that accessible parking must be in the closest location to the building entrance. And obviously, I try to ensure that that means it's not going to be, if there's an alternative route to make it shorter, say like the building entrance, say your parking spot's right here, and the building entrance is right here, but the voting area is like way in the back of the building. You can't do much about that if that's the only entrance. Maybe we can talk to the building about relocating the voting area. But in that situation at the Y, I was looking at it yesterday, or Monday, I don't know, it's all fluid. But so what I kind of decided, because I saw what you're talking about, and what I've decided is because that ramp's actually a little steeper than what it needs to be. Because even if you walk on it, it seems pretty steep. So what I'm going to end up suggesting is that entrance, the exterior entrance that goes directly to those rooms, that be the voter entrance. And that is something that the county gets to work out with that building. And then that's why we're here. I'm here as well, so I can, I'm going to write up a fancy report and say this is my recommendation. And usually, because we are the state protection and advocacy agency, that adds a little weight to it. So, good question. Yes, and we are on top of it. Would you like a piece of candy for your good question? It's this, or I give it to the office afterwards, because I'm pretty sure I can't take all of that on the plane with me when I leave. So, general guidelines about the experience of a poll worker working with someone who has a disability. Real quick, we'll talk about this in a second, but please know, I always prefer to use someone's name over the category of someone with a disability. But for the sake of this training, I'm just going to use that blanket term. Please don't take offense to it. I always prefer to address people as however they like to be identified by. General guidelines. We've been talking about this. Be respectful, be courteous. If you are unsure about how to best interact with the person or what best accommodations may serve them, just ask. Because like I said earlier, it may be a little embarrassing, but it's going to save a heck of a lot of trouble down the road. And the person will probably just be happy you asked. I do some things in my personal life which people have a lot of questions for, and I'm always just happier if they ask. They don't know how to, I foster kids, and so some of these kids don't look like me. And so they're always like, hey, what, who, how, is this, what's happening with this kid? And I'm like, you can just ask. Just ask me what's going on, because it's going to be easier in the long run, and you're just going to look more awkward if you don't know how to approach the situation. Also, that falls in line with communicating with the person. Just talk to them, just communicate with them, whatever their preferred method is, and just ask. I mean, that's basically it. It's like my mom can't move around very well, has some issues, but she's stubborn as a rock. But if you ask her about the type of help she needs, she'll tell you. So we were going to go somewhere, we were going to go to a concert, and The concert venue had nothing but stairs, and the parking was far from it. And my mom probably would have just walked the whole way and not have given up any complaints about it. But I asked her, I was like, Mom, would it be easier if I just dropped you off in front of this place? You sat down and waited for me, and then we found the elevator for it. She said yes. I was like, I don't like to walk this far, and I don't have any mobility impairments. So I can only imagine what a pain in the butt it's going to be for you when walking around is not very convenient. So just stuff like that, trying to put yourself in that person's shoes as well. Obviously, respect the person's privacy, so try not to make a big scene about it. So if you see someone who's blind, and I'm going to pick on you just because you're here, and just be like, hey, do you need any help today? It looks like you can't see anything.
My hearing is fine.
Oh, is it?
Yes,
But do you need any help?
yes, I do,
Are you blind?
partially.
Okay. Well, we're gonna put you over here and we're gonna help you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, thank you for letting me pick on you. Respect your person's privacy. So just say, hey, are you having difficulty seeing? Or if it's obvious that they have completely blind, hey, do you need any help with getting an audio version of your ballot? Do you prefer to use the accessible voting machine? Just keep it cool and you're probably good. And I'm glad you brought that up about you can hear just fine, because that happens a lot. People will talk to someone who's blind and they start to talk really loud because, I'm sorry, I'm on a mic. They start to talk really loud because, that's what you do. And it's right, I can hear just fine. I can't see anything, but I can hear just fine. Or if you're like me, for some reason, I don't know why my brain works this way, but I have a bunch of people I work with who are deaf or hard of hearing. They can't hear me. They use sign language as their form of communication. But for some reason, I always feel like I need to talk Spanish to them. I don't know. I always go into Spanish mode for some reason. They still don't understand me. So I have to make my brain work in ways like, no, they still can't hear you. You need to use sign language. Get an interpreter. And so I think I may talk about that a little bit more as well. But you can kind of see, obviously, don't know that some general rules, a person's mobility device, whether it be crutches, a walker, wheelchair, whatever, that's an extension of their body. So please don't touch it. It's like, I don't know, people feel the need to touch you all the time, like without asking. Like if you have, I don't know, it's weird. So just ask, probably you don't want strangers coming up and touching you, or like if someone has a wheelchair, don't like touch the handlebars, just be like, that's part of their body, pretty much. A really embarrassing story I'm going to tell you about an old coworker is I had a boss who used a scooter to get around, and she had one that she used at work. It was a pretty big building, so she kept it parked by her office. Something happened, and it was beyond work time, and someone got on that scooter and was riding it around. And so I see people like aghast, shaking their heads, and that's the right reaction because that's a horrible thing to do. He's like, yeah, I'm going to get on this scooter and zip around the building. That's the worst thing possible you could do. That's an extension of that individual's body. That is their tool. That's like saying, hey, I'm going to get in your car and drive it around because I think it's fun. Great. No, it's cool. I'll give it back. Sounds good. So it's the same thing. Or it's like, it's like, here, let me borrow your hand for a minute. It's cool. I'll give it back. Obviously, there's a term called inspiration porn. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that term. It's basically this term used in the disability community that says, I'm not here to inspire you just because I exist. So don't tell me I'm inspiring because, I got up out of bed and I'm doing the same thing as you. I'm just living my life sort of thing. So don't belittle the individual. Don't give pity upon them or tell them they're inspirational just for doing the same tasks that you're doing. Obviously, treat everybody like you want to be treated. If you feel like, ask somebody if they need assistance. If they say no, no biggie. If they say yes, great. We found a way to help them out. I got a fun little video. Also, sometimes sometimes you'll interact with people whose speech is unclear and you can't always hear them. And sometimes I struggle with this too. There's probably a lot of people who can't understand what I say anyway. But if someone's speech is unclear and it's hard to understand what they're saying, go ahead and ask them to repeat it, because chances are they're used to that and they're trying to convey something to you. So just ask them. And I have to do that a lot in my life. And it's kind of like I wish I could understand them more, but I can't. So I just got to ask them what's going on. So just be aware of that as well. If you're interacting with someone with low vision or is blind, kind of describe what you're doing at all times. And they'll talk about it in this video. But there's a big thing about if someone is blind and they need guidance, or if they have low vision and they need guidance about where to go, don't grab them. Even if it's by, a lot of people prefer to be guided by the arm. Don't grab them, let them take hold of you. And it's basically just like that thing. You don't want to be grabbed if you don't, nobody wants to be grabbed unnecessarily. It's kind of like, I don't know you, I don't want you to touch me, no offense, but we're not there yet. So ask if they can take your arm and you can guide them appropriately and let them know where you're going. So we can hit that video and you can kind of see what I'm talking about.
Good morning, Bob.
Morning there, big man. Morning, Alice!
There's no need to be awkward. Poor Bob. Like so many of us, he just doesn't know how to interact with people with disabilities.
It's pretty easy, really. People with disabilities are people first.
We need the same things that every person needs, like respect.
Good morning, everyone.
Attention! Okay. Maybe we need to be more specific.
The easiest way to show respect is to focus on the person, not the disability. It's okay. You'll get the hang of it.
One easy way to focus on the person is to watch the person signing and not their interpreter.
Or their companion.
It's really cool that you'd like to help, but do us both a favor and please ask me first. What you think might be helping? I got you. Wait, ah! Oh no, might actually not. If you'd like to offer me help, let me hold on to your elbow. Don't take mine.
Hey, would you like to take my arm?
Sure.
Assistive devices help us to live our lives. They're really important and really personal.
Grabbing them only makes it weird for everyone.
What?
Please only touch our devices and service animals if we've given you permission. And don't take it personally if I ask you not to. Remember that my service animal helps me all the time. Neither of us would like it if we were separated.
Remember, we make our own decisions. We sign documents, vote, volunteer, work, and pay taxes.
We get married.
So don't underestimate me just because I have a great smile.
Just because I'm blind. May I help you? Does not mean I'm deaf.
I don't know. I think he said he was gonna come. Just because I'm deaf doesn't mean I'm blind.
And just because I use a wheelchair doesn't mean that I can't sweep you off your feet.
So take a deep breath. Relax. We don't bite.
Unless we're really hungry.
Hello there, ladies. How are you?
Hello. And if you're not sure what to do, just ask.
Hi. Would you still like to see a menu?
No thanks, but can you please read it to me?
Sure, definitely.
Just treat us the way you would want to be treated, and we'll all be okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Alice.
Morning.
Awkward no more. Nice job, Bob. Go forth and be human. There's no need to be awkward.
There you go. That's just a fun video. I think when we talk in a very large venue of an official status of how do I interact with a voter that has a disability, it can be a little overwhelming and very official sounding, but it's just like this. I wanted to throw some humor into the mix for you. Just to ask, everybody's human, everybody has different needs. Some need help, some don't. We don't know unless we ask, basically. That's what it boils down to. Any questions about that video? Do you love it? Do you want more of it? I have a ton of videos I can share with you. Okay. So what else we got? Person first language. When I talk about that, is anybody familiar with that? Person first language. Cool. Well, I will talk about it then. So person first language is, like the video says, focuses more on the person and not the disability or not the prevalent issue. So like in this case, obviously ask a person what they, what's your name? Susie? Great. I'll call you Susie. Or let's say, instead of, if you're looking at me, glasses girl, brown-headed glasses girl. That's who we need to talk to. Help that person right there with the glasses. Help the glasses girl. Help the one with the weird personality. Help that one. Just talk to me. You'll figure it out. That's after you talk to me, you're like, oh, weird. Let's help her. Focus more on the issue, on the person. So you could say, like, instead of that person in the wheelchair, say that person who has a wheelchair, or say that person who has a visual impairment, that person who has autism, the person who does this. Instead of just saying, I have a friend that does that. She's like, oh, Down syndrome babies. They're so cute. I love them. Down syndrome people. Down's kids. Love them. They're great. No, no, no. There's so much more than just a human being with Down syndrome or, Down syndrome. There's so much more than that. Or, help that old person over there. So much more than that. You're a person. You have other qualities. So it's like, help that person over there with the hat. Help that person who said that they need help. Things like that. Focus on the individual and not the prevalent disability or the barrier. My slides are off. Let's see what, oh, we're so ahead of time. Okay. Any questions about that? Basic stuff. It's all pretty easy. Okay, so we're talking about general assistance for voters with disabilities. I don't know if y'all cover this in some of your other trainings. Some of you may already be aware. What kind of assistance can voters receive when they have a disability? What kind of accommodations are available to them? This is your time to answer. Microphones, get ready. Okay, so, oh, y'all, get on it.
The hearing device?
Okay, at the voting machine, the earphones?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yes, definitely. That is an accommodation. Yes, ma'am. Come on, microphone. You're wearing the wrong shoes for today.
We're able to take out the machine and put it in the table.
Yes, that's a good point. Do you want a piece of candy? Thank you for. Oh, she has. Okay, there's more.
We also have the capability of making the print on the screen large.
Yes, good job.
Now,
can you hold the microphone to your mouth?
are you blind? Very bad question to ask people. That's too harsh. Are you
Right.
visually impaired?
Yes.
That's a wide range.
Right.
Okay. A lot of people don't want to feel like, oh, I'm totally blind. Well, I could see light and dark or something,
Right.
But if they have some ability like that, they feel better.
Correct.
So, and you can tell they have to relate to you and kind of like you.
Yes.
If you do that, you get their confidence and you just work with them.
Absolutely. Good point. Yes. What was your name, sir?
Pardon?
What's your name?
John.
John, would you like a piece of candy? Thank you. And you get one too. I saw that you said something. So John said, there's 2 points John spoke about. It was the type of accommodation that can be received is you can make the ballots on the machine into large print. So there's that if someone needs it. Also, going back to when I was discussing asking someone if they're blind or if they have a visual impairment of some sort, instead of just saying, are you blind? Saying, do you have low vision? Do you have a visual impairment? Because that's a little more all-encompassing. Just because a person can't see doesn't mean they can't see shapes or some shadows, or maybe they have some sort of retinal deterioration so they can see some things but maybe not others. So just being aware of something that's a little more all-encompassing than just blindness. Because if I took off my glasses, I got low vision, but I'm not blind. But the glasses help me. Any other ideas about the types of accommodations?
Curbside voting.
Look at her go. Curbside voting. Good point. There you go. Oh, I don't have Snickers. Yeah, I'll just eat that one for you. Curbside voting. What a great thing you bring up. So glad you're discussing that. Curbside voting is one of my favorite things to talk about. When I talk about curbside voting, do y'all kind of get the idea of what I'm discussing? What is curbside voting? John.
For a person that can't or doesn't want to go in, you can accommodate them in their car by taking a machine or giving them a paper ballot.
Yes.
Now, we can do, funny on this thing, you can do write-in, curbside, helping the machines, but on a regular election day, I work at a fire station, and one day we almost had a lady do a drive-through.
Oh. Drive-through voting is the wave of the future, I hear.
Right. She came right up to the garage doors, and we thought, okay, this is going to be a first.
Well, that'll get your attention, for sure. And you spoke about that also, kind of. You can take the machine out of the stand, and I think she has something to say if you want to take the phone or the mic.
I've also recommended the curbside when they have problems. If the first time they come in and they have problems, they say it's too long a walk. And I told them next time, why don't you come in and we'll take the ballot to your car.
Yes, absolutely. So curbside voting is a feature that should be available to every polling site. And it exists if a person cannot enter into the building or, like say they have difficulty standing for long periods of time, and it's just going to be easier instead of climbing out of the car and getting into the building, if they access curbside voting. That's an option. And you have on your accessible voting machines, you can, like you said, you can bring it out, take it to them, they can cast their ballot, and you're good to go. Quick question, how do voters access curbside voting? They what? They love it. They love it? How do you know they need to use curbside? So the answer was they send somebody in. What if yes.
We've also had phone calls. I'll get a phone call from elections saying that somebody's going to be in at such and such time to watch out for them.
Oh, okay.
And we do that.
Okay, yes, because that was going to be my next question. Honking your horn is another way. You had a comment back there as well? Same thing? So, yes, sending somebody in, if you don't have someone to send in, calling ahead of time, having the voter call ahead of time, letting y'all know they're going to be there, honking the horn, which is not ideal, but seems to happen. Yeah, some places you wouldn't hear it. Actually, ADA standards say that when voters are alerting to use curbside voting, honking the horn is not the way it should happen. There should usually be, I tell voters, and again, this isn't the perfect world scenario, but I usually tell them, if you know you're going to access that, just call the elections office ahead of time. So, let them know where you're going to vote, what day and time, and so they know to look out for you. Some polling sites have volunteers or have poll workers, staff that will kind of keep an eye out. If they're close to the building entrance, they'll keep an eye out to see if someone is in a spot, their curbside voting spot, and then they'll know to go there. Yes, ma'am.
Also, if we have long lines, to give them an option to come up front.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Long lines, if there's a long line, which happened in the last presidential election, there were long lines everywhere. So say you can't stand for long periods of time. This is 2018. So 2016, state law was passed about, instead of having to stand in line, you now have the right, your spot can be saved. So you can sit down, on the side somewhere, and your spot in line can be saved, and when you go up there, when your spot goes up to the front, you can go do your thing and check in. Or if the judge has the option of moving them up to the front. So the election judge has that option. So that's an accommodation as well. Good points. Y'all know your stuff. Good job.
Good
Oh.
job.
Do you want a piece of candy? Okay.
Okay, the thing with curbside came up, so it popped something into my mind, and we're talking about handicap spaces.
Okay.
Like in my precinct, there's only 4, okay? And we're the first ones there in the morning. Guess what? All of us are disabled.
Okay.
All of us have handicap plates.
Okay.
And we pull in there, and first thing in the morning, and that's kind of the most convenient plate, we pull in there.
Okay.
Well, last election, a voter came in and said, there's not enough handicap parking. I went out with the voter, and guess what? It never even dawned on me. Every handicap parking space was filled with one of our cars,
Right.
basically denying them the right or the ability. And so I went in, and it was, and Efren's our judge, he's sitting over there. I kind of brought it in. Okay, a couple of my guys got upset. Hey, I'm 100% disabled, I'm handicapped.
Yeah.
I have a right to park there.
Absolutely.
And so now I think this could be a training issue. It ought to be made maybe a policy. The county, during election training, to bringing it up and say, look, we're going to ask that you, accommodate our disabled voters by, if you come in early and you got to unload or do something, but before the poll opens, please back out, park, reasonably close or wherever you want, but leave those spaces open.
Yeah. So in that case, and you're right, so everybody who has the parking passes has the right to utilize that, whether you're a poll worker or not, or whether you're a patron of the business that the polling site's at. What I would say in that situation where all the parking spots were being filled, maybe we can work out a deal with that business saying you put at least, depending on the amount of parking spots there are in that parking lot in general, we can designate like a parking spot for, accessible parking spot for voters. And it can be out of the normally designated ones. So it can be like an extra bonus one. So that could be something to discuss. But that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. And one of y'all had a comment. Yes.
I just wanted to mention that when you have a long line, it's a good idea to offer a chair just in general, because I've had very young people say, I'd take the chair. And then I give them the chair, and then they say something like, I had a surgery and I just can't stand this for very long, and I want to vote, but they look like they're 25.
Right.
So you can't judge ahead of time that someone has a cane and they're perfectly fine standing there, and the 25-year-old says, I really need the chair.
Yes.
So I just try to offer it in general.
That's perfect.
To all of them and give them eye contact and see if they go, because they also don't want to maybe say it real loud.
Right, and that's perfect. And that kind of talks about that invisible disability. You may not know that they just had a surgery or whatever, but they can't stand for whatever reason. They have scoliosis and it's not completely visible yet. But that's perfect. Just asking everybody, do you need a chair? Great. And usually I found, because my office is a polling site, this is yours, I think. I'm going to talk into 2 microphones. People are really good about, do you need to sit down here? Let me get you a chair if you're waiting in line with each other. Or I've even, people who have a lot of time and they don't mind waiting, sometimes they'll let that person cut in front of them. That's up to the voter. But usually people are really good about helping each other out. Cool, you need a chair? Great. Have at it. Yes, sir.
We had a practice for a long time that we bring somebody who look like they're a little unstable walking or standing, and we'll get them a chair and put down up front, and we'll walk them, one another would escort them right up to the front, and they would sit down there. Never had a complaint. But the interesting thing we've found is that every person in that line, until it depletes, goes up there and sits down in the chair.
Oh, after that person gets out of the chair,
yeah,
like another
everybody
person
sits
will
down
just
in
jump
it,
in?
like sits down, do their paperwork, and go on with it. Like, okay, so maybe we ought to put chairs there, you know?
Wow. Everybody loves a chair. I think we've learned from that. And I'm glad, like, I've even done that where I've been at polling sites and it looks like someone who has a cane, like the super elderly woman had a cane and it looks like she needed, maybe would like to sit instead of stand. Totally cool with standing. She had no problem. I was like, do you need like a chair or anything? She's like, no, I'm good. Great. But now I feel better because at least I asked. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to go to this lady in the back and then we'll come to you. It's also a good time to practice lunges when you're in line.
I have a question.
Yes.
What do we do if another voter is rude to our handicapped voters?
Good question. So the question was, what do we do if another voter's rude to another voter with a disability? I would think just in general, to kind of keep the calm at your polling site, I would encourage just in general, just say like, hey man, if you could treat that person with more respect, that'd be great. We're all in the same situation. Let's all be nice to each other. That way nothing gets out of hand. I think it's okay to say, can you be more nice, especially if it's creating a scene, kind of. Do you have like a scenario you could provide me? Like, are they being rude to this person just because they have a disability? Oh, get your mic. Oh, the mic. You should have worn your comfy shoes today. I know. I know.
I had an incident where the young lady couldn't understand very well. So the voter that we were processing next to her was being very rude to her.
Yeah.
But then she took it upon us to go ahead and say we weren't doing anything to help the
so
situation.
the voter who was kind of being picked on.
Yes.
Ah.
Yeah,
okay.
because they were kind of assuming she wouldn't speak English or she wouldn't speak Spanish. And so they were just, in a way, trying to help, but not in the best way.
Right. Yeah. And I would say in that case, because everybody wants an environment that they feel safe in, So I would also maybe, the person who was being rude, just say, hey, you know what? We got this. This is our job. We're here to help the person. You just focus on your voting. You do you. It's our job to help this person. And so you don't have to say mind your own business, but like, this is our job. We got it. We appreciate you trying to help, but it's, let us do our thing. This is why we get paid to do this. And then maybe something like that might be helpful. And especially if the person who was kind of being picked on, the person who had a disability kind of came up to you, I was like, what? Why didn't you do anything? That makes me feel like that person didn't feel safe. And I think everybody has an entitlement to feel safe wherever they are. And if I'm assuming the El Paso County Elections Department wants their voters to feel safe when they go vote. So that's part of what we're going to do is help them feel safe. Look. You do your vote, focus on what you're going to mark on your ballot. We got this. Thank you for your time. But, and if the person says, why didn't y'all do anything, you can apologize profusely. Just like, you know what, I'm so sorry you had that experience. You're right. We probably should have handled it better. How would you suggest we do that in the future? And that way it can kind of help them feel like they're adding some ownership to the situation. And then they're providing you with important input. Does that make sense? Cool. Would you like a piece of candy? Okay. Looks like y'all are going to get a lot of candy.
I had a visually impaired person that came in and he wanted to sit down.
Yes.
And he told us there was a way to show them how to sit down. Can you explain to us
There's a way to show someone how to sit down?
Yeah, because he said that we have to
like help, like provide like support?
Yes, and move the chair and everything. He told us something.
I'm not aware of any official ways to help people sit down, but that's a good question. Is there a way to like show someone how to like assist someone to sit down? I would just probably say, offer the person a place to sit and it's like, do you need assistance in, getting into the chair? Because sometimes you have like rolly chairs, sometimes they're not, and it can be hard for me to sit my bottom in a rolly chair sometimes. So I would say if you just offer them your arm for support or maybe steady the chair, that may be a good way to do it. Yeah, you just kind of put it there, you're like, cool, you're good. Sit down. Don't do it like they do when you're getting arrested. Don't like shove them in there with the head. Don't do that.
Well, at that time when he came in, Ruben, I think Ruben is here. Yeah, he showed Ruben also how to do that. And
Oh, okay, what did that person say on how to do it?
he was talking to Ruben about that, so I
Oh,
was
okay.
wondering if you knew about.
I'm not, I think just kind of when I was speaking about if someone who is blind or visually impaired needed guidance assistance, instead of saying, let me take your arm, you say, hey, would you like to take my arm? And then showing them, hey, this is the chair. And even just asking, do you need help sitting down? And if that's the case, how can I help you? Or just provide like a support for them, hold the chair steady, whatever works best for that individual. Or you could be like me, and every time you sit up and stand up and sit down, you just make that moan that everybody makes anyway. You're like, ah! Ah. But I would say just asking the individual if there's a way that they would need assistance would be a good step.
I wanted to make a comment. This hasn't happened in the last couple of years, but another place that I had worked voting, we would have every voting session someone who would get angry about what was going on with the voting process. Use very bad language, get very loud, start to threaten, and just what we did at that, 2 times we had to call a sheriff to take them out.
Oh,
So
yeah.
usually that was, I'd approach him with a big smile, hands up in the air like the Pope, and try to going to call the sheriff. So in 2 times, we did have to call the police and the sheriff to come pick him up and get him out of the place.
Yes.
So that can happen.
Yes.
And when you're doing an early voting thing and they got to vote one side or another, that's when that argument and that verbal explosion
Right.
comes up.
Disruptions do occur. People can get unruly. Good rule of thumb. I like that. What would the Pope do? Hold you up. And I would say, you also, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if someone's being completely disruptive like y'all did, you sound like you handled it well. If someone's being completely disruptive, no matter what the situation is, you have the right to ask them to leave. Same thing with service animals. If someone's using a service dog and they're being, in that individual, their handler doesn't have control over the animal, you can ask them to leave. Now the person can come back and still, utilize the service they came there to utilize, so they can still vote, but they can't have the animal with them. So same thing, if someone's being disruptive and it's causing a real issue, you can ask them to leave. And just say, maybe if it's a voting issue, maybe they can do a provisional ballot or come back at a later time. But absolutely, it's a good point. Yes, ma'am.
Real touchy though, a service animal is their companion, and that service animal is there for a reason.
Yes.
So somebody, a judge, a poll worker, can say, I'm afraid of dogs, and you can deny somebody their service animal just on something random. I think that's a really, really sensitive area.
I knew this was going to be a hot topic when I brought up the word service animal. So your point was that can be a really touchy issue, and if someone is like when a poll worker or a judge has a fear of like dogs, you cannot ask the person to not bring in their dog, their service animal, if you have a fear of it. When you can ask an individual to remove their service animals is if they're being unruly. So the handler doesn't have control of that animal. They're not on a leash. They're not close by. They're barking unrelenting. They're like a lot of dogs I know. Maybe they're humping your leg. Not great. But that's when if they're being disruptive, that's when you can ask that dog to leave. If it's just because you're not comfortable with the animal, you cannot ask them to remove the service animal.
If it's a service animal, it's not going to be disruptive.
Yes,
Because
well,
it's
in theory,
trained.
yes.
But there are people that will claim that their pet is a service animal, and asking them to leave is not that big of a deal because it's just their pet.
Right, and so generally speaking, if it's a service animal, the definition of a service animal, as you'll probably know, is it's been trained to perform a specific task for that person's disability, to assist them. And so that dog is working. And in general, it should not, in theory, it should not be disruptive. But wild things happen from time to time. It's an animal. We're all animals. And so something happens and it's being disruptive, you still have the right to ask them. But usually it's not an issue. And you bring up a good point, like if it's really not a service animal. It's not our decision. It's not our call to say what's a service animal and what's not a service animal. The only things you can ask is that dog a service animal? Is that service animal required because of a disability? And what work or task does that animal do to assist you?
So I know that some people that have anxiety issues will use cats.
Yeah.
Or other really small dogs and hold on to them when they come in. And sometimes they can be a little disruptive.
Right.
But the owner is usually pretty well on top of it
Okay.
because they want
Right.
that they really need that pet with
Right,
them.
yeah. And so I'd say generally speaking, if it's unruly and it's creating a real issue, like a disturbance, then the animal can go. But a general uncomfort or anxiety with it does not allow you to remove that animal because it's performing a task, it's working. You had a comment, sir.
So in Texas, there is no legal definition of a service animal or licensure or anything like that?
In Texas, there may be, I know federal law, the definition, the Americans with Disabilities Act covers service animals. The definition of a service animal is a dog that has been individually trained to do work or perform tasks for a person with a disability. The task performed must be directly related to the person's disability. The ADA does not cover emotional support, therapy, comfort, companion animals, or they don't cover that. So dogs or service animals the ADA does not require service animals to be certified, but they are typically trained to perform a specific task. Dogs don't have to be registered per se. They don't have to be registered with the city as a service animal, but they are trained for a specific task. Sometimes they wear vests, sometimes they don't. But again, it's not our call as poll workers to make that definition. Our job is just to let them vote, let them go, basically. Make sure they have the ability to vote, and that's it. Any other questions about that lovely topic?
I just want to add really quick. Yeah, we don't know. If someone says, this is my service animal, we defer to them, okay? That is based on that. We have nothing to prove it's not. Now, if that service animal or that not service animal, depending on what it really is, starts to obstruct the election, affect other people's right to vote, that's when we can step in and say, you know, this animal cannot be in here because of the obstruction of the election law. That's where we can really step in. I've never had that issue. I have had one voter complain that someone brought in a dog to a firehouse to vote, but the dog wasn't barking and the dog was on a leash, and I don't know if that was a service dog or not. So that's the only issue we've ever had with it. But if somebody comes in and says, this is my service dog, or we have no reason to not believe that. And as long as it doesn't affect other people's voting rights, then it's allowable. If you do have a question, though, someone brings in a dog, let us know. We have rovers, we can talk to them, we can figure out what's going on. But otherwise, if it's just there with them, its mere presence is not a deterrent to voting, okay?
And generally speaking, and I know we could go on and on probably about this issue, but I will say the Department of Justice, the Americans with Disability Act, has a printout, kind of a guide sheet about service animals. I've provided one in the office, and I can email you all the link as well, but maybe that can be dispersed. It has a lot of great questions about this topic as well, so something. Yes, ma'am.
Just one last thing, under Texas law.
Okay.
Hold on, they're passing you the microphone.
Texas.gov, under Texas law, a facility can ask a person only, I'm sorry, that's not it. Denying entry or service to a person with a service animal is a violation of laws. However, also, as a part of that, fraudulent use of an animal is a misdemeanor in Texas. So on both ends of the spectrum, if their animal is not a service animal and they're disruptive, that would be a misdemeanor because they're fraudulently presenting it as a service animal. But denying access for a service animal and denying them the ability to vote does carry penalty under the law in Texas.
Right, so you cannot deny someone entrance into a building or a service solely because they have a service animal. But sometimes we just like to put it out there in case they're being that animal. So the person comes in, they're having all the access to everything. If that animal's being disruptive, you can ask that animal to leave. You can ask the person to get their animal under control, and if that doesn't work, they know. They probably don't want this animal to be out of control either. They can remove the animal, but they can come back as well. So there is that. But that's good information as well. Interpreters, have y'all ever had any issues with experiences with people bringing their own interpreters or assistants or anything like that? Okay, so is that generally a good experience? Do y'all have questions about that? Kind of know how to handle that situation?
The problem I run into is that a lot of time the interpreter that helps is also telling them how to vote.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's a good point. As we know, rules say interpreters are there solely for the purpose of interpreting. They cannot influence that vote in one way or the other. And they sign an oath saying so. Yeah, I mean, I know. But I think, obviously, they're not supposed to do that. I think in the real world, you've done as much as you can. They've signed the oath. You've instructed them as to what they can and cannot do. And if it looks like the voter is in distress and maybe not comfortable with it, maybe you can intercede and say, hey, is there an issue? Can we help you? Would you be more comfortable having a poll worker as an interpreter, or the county providing an interpreter? Because the county is supposed to do that as well. So there is that. She needs the mic again.
I had an issue. I had an issue with a husband that brought his wife in to vote, and he insisted that he had to read the ballot to her. So we swore him in, and he didn't pay any attention to what he was swearing to. He went over to the machine and put everything in for her as I'm watching him, and then he proceeded to tell her how to vote, and he was pushing the buttons. So I walked over and I said, excuse me, sir, she has to do this, not you.
Right.
And he got mad, and I know he just continued to tell her how to vote.
Right.
But at least it kept, she was doing the button pushing instead of
And I think you handled that as well as possible. I mean, you went over there and said, she has to mark it, and there's only so much you can control. But you did everything you could, and that was handled really well. Yeah, so, yeah, there you go. What else? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Okay.
As far as when you have someone who comes in who requires interpretation or assistance, I know that we have the forms that are required to be filled out by that person, but is there any way that we can have on those forms, just like we have on the supporting documentation when we're qualifying a voter to register to vote, is there any way on those forms that it can be stated, specifically what they are able and what they are not able to do, and how it can be?
I think that is a printing issue. Yeah, it's already in the oath, basically.
Right.
It's
If they
not
don't
spec-
pay attention to that, they just sign it.
I think you can only control so much. Human behavior, is only so controllable.
Okay.
And I think you've done everything, on the elections end, you've done everything you can. You have them, legally, they've agreed to this. And
Okay.
so you have that documentation to back you up.
Okay, even if we have somebody who's trying to control their vote? We can stop it though,
Lisa may
right?
have something to say about
We
that.
can stop that.
So if you're having somebody who signs that oath saying that they are going to serve as an interpreter only, and you talk to them and say, if you see that happening and you say, hey, just so you know, you cannot direct, you've signed this here, you cannot mark, they continue to do that, you need to make sure that you call our office, we see that oath, and that would be something we would turn over to the sheriff's department, okay? So they need to know that's very serious. I maybe give them a warning if they're over there starting, just say, just so you know, you're not allowed to mark it for them, you're not allowed to instruct how they vote, this is the law, and if you continue to do that, we will have to turn that over to the sheriff's office. I want them to know that's serious, okay?
Yeah, and just remember we go during the training, and all of you will agree with me, is that I tell you, if they continue, you as a judge, you step in to assist or interpret for the voter. Okay, just tell them you did sign this under oath. If you continue, you're going to have to step in and assist the voter. And it's worked for most of you when that does occur.
And pass that to us, you don't call the sheriff, okay?
Y'all have new voting machines this year, isn't that right? Or y'all are getting some?
Not yet.
You're working on it, okay. So that'll be exciting when that happens. How many of y'all know how to use the accessible voting machine? all the tools that are attached to it. Okay, good. So the sip and puff device, the little jellies, the paddles that extend out. You don't get all those. Well,
I know we brought we brought the machine in before and did the sip and puff, but I want to make sure that everyone in this room, at least for sure, all of our machines are ADA. So some of the polling places have one machine that's ADA compliant. ADA compliant is any machine that we have. I just want to make sure everyone in here understands how to burn an audio ballot. Because it's very simple. I mean, that's all it is you burn the audio ballot and then you offer the headphones. And that's the biggest complaint we get, is that either the noise isn't working, the headphones aren't working. If someone tells you these headphones aren't working, go back, check with them, make sure that's happening. We're getting new headphones, more expensive headphones, because the ones we had were pretty bad. But you want to make sure that you're assisting them in any way. We work with El Paso Council of the Blind. There's 26,000 registered voters here who are visually impaired, low vision, or completely visually impaired. So we do have a large population of visually impaired voters. So we want to make sure that that's, to me, the number one thing that we're doing, which is burning an audio ballot correctly and making sure the headphones are working. Any of the machines, they work on, so you don't have to specifically pick one. So everyone's hand should go up when we ask who knows how to burn an audio.
That was a trick question.
Yeah, who knows how to burn that ballot, right? If you don't, let's cover it in training. We'll bring in the machines just like we do. Everybody needs to know that, because I'm telling you what, we get calls every election. Every election. This was better this time, but this still didn't happen. This was better, but this still didn't happen. The day that the first election after I took over, no, the second or third, we got a call from the El Paso Council of the Blind. Basically, they were going to go to Austin the next day and sue the county for not having the right to vote. So we worked with them and really started to say, okay, what can we do to make sure that we are getting these trainings here, getting these places accommodating? And so it's been a priority of ours since about 2015, since I took over, to really make sure that everybody in this county has equal access to the ballot. So if you don't know how to do it, please ask. Okay, there's nothing wrong with saying I don't remember, I'm not sure.
What have we learned from today? It's okay to ask questions.
Yeah, it's okay to ask. I've never had somebody from El Paso Council of the Blind say, I was so mad they asked if I needed help. It was, they never asked.
They provided me too much help.
Yeah, so no one ever asked that, okay? So please make sure that we are asking, we're communicating. That's the number one thing.
And
but like I said, if you're missing any information, just ask, okay?
Yeah, and I think if you find that there are things, tools from the accessible voting machine that should be there and aren't, from my experience working with the office, let them know, because they want to know. And everybody wants to help everybody cast their ballot. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with letting folks know. If they invite me to come by every year, they're going to be fine taking, information from y'all. So there's that. Good questions. Good job, everybody. Give yourself a round of applause. All right, so pop quiz. Wake up. Hope you were paying attention. All right, so we got some scenarios. Thought we could go over them and let me know what y'all think is the best way to handle them, okay? So first situation. A man who is blind is using a white cane and would like to vote. He is accompanied by a friend who will assist him in identifying the ballot items. What do you do in that situation? Let's just say they walk up. This is a scenario. How do you handle it?
Who wants to raise her hand over here?
We offer them the affidavit to assistance.
Offer them the affidavit, yes. Yep, yeah, so you ask the friend. So let's say the man expresses that this is, he wants his friend to assist him. You offer the friend the affidavit?
We ask the gentleman first.
Good job.
And then he'll, we ask the gentleman first, and then he'll let us know if, he'll say yes or no.
Yeah, so sounds good. So you ask the gentleman who's blind, do you need assistance? And if he says, this is my friend, he's going to assist me, you have the friend take an oath, do the affidavit, and then you let the voter know about the accessibility features on the voting machine, and then you direct them to the voting machine, and there you go. That's it. Good answer. Good job. You passed.
don't mean to make this go longer than it needs to, but the other thing that Tony just reminded me of is that you guys, I think everybody in here used the electronic poll book this last May for the check-in rather than the laptops, correct? So we are also going to do a full county rollout on Election Day this year. So no more paper ballot, no more paper poll books, okay? So but the one thing that we will cover in training when we go over the poll books is the reader. And what that means is that the iPad tablets that you use for the check-in now will also be able to be used with an audio with the headphones so that when they're checking in, and we'll cover that specifically, but when they're checking in, they'll be able to verify their address, their party if it's a primary. When you flip it over, if they're visually impaired, we're going to have some signature blocks for them to use. So that will be something else we cover in training. So just so you know, we will be going over that, and that is one of the features of the poll book, is to give those voters who do have some sort of visual impairment the option to listen and confirm rather than you just completely check them in and they have no idea what they're signing, like with the paper poll book. So I just wanted to add that in. I'm sorry to keep.
No, good. I'm glad you did.
interrupting.
Yeah, and I'll say that y'all, everybody in your office, and Lisa, y'all have done a great job at working to make everything accommodating and accessible to everybody. So thank you for that. Not every county's like that, so I put y'all on a pedestal. So I'm just going to start referring them to you. They belong there. Good job. Yeah. Give them a round of applause. Election offices need that. They don't always get it. So other scenario, second one. There's a woman with hearing aids who cannot understand what you're saying. What do you do? How do you communicate effectively with her?
Who wants to raise their hand? Are we going to pick on?
Ooh, look. This nice lady over here has a comment. I'm sure she wasn't planted or anything.
Well, at school, I've had to communicate with someone like that, and they just told me that it's best just to talk to them when you're looking at them because they can lip read. But if not, you find some way to communicate by, using sign language or just like your
even
hands.
writing something down.
So just looking at or writing it down too.
Yeah, looking at them, because a lot of times maybe they can understand what you're saying. They can read lips or, I had a friend who was slowly losing her hearing, and so it was always hard when we went out to loud places, but because she was losing her hearing, she had started to learn how to read lips. So I'd always just talk I make sure she was making eye contact with me and she could see what my mouth was doing, and that's good. See what communication works best for them. Writing something down, just looking at them face to face, and if they have a hard time pronouncing audibly what's going on, find a form of communication that works best. Obviously, don't talk louder. Probably not the thing, as we learned. Plus, it's kind of it's a privacy issue at the same time. A man is waiting in line who, we may have already talked about this, who's unsteady on his feet. He has speech that is difficult to understand. What do you do? He's drunk. He's drunk. Do you ask him to take you out later after shift? Yeah, you ask him to share where his flask is? Well, it's a possibility. Anything's a possibility. An important thing to say, I don't know if it's necessarily our job to make that call. I could be wrong, but it's not our call to say that person doesn't look like they have a disability, so they don't need any help, or that person looks. A lot of things that happen. I know someone who has a traumatic brain injury. People think he's drunk all the time. And it's just the way his body now works. His speech is slurred. He doesn't walk in a straight line. He was completely sober, went to go buy beer at a liquor store. They wouldn't sell it to him because they thought he was drunk. He's like, no, I just have a traumatic brain injury. This is how I am all the time. So it happens. Don't assume that it's one thing or the other, because who knows? And maybe they just like to do that for attention. In that case, if they're unsteady on their feet, ask if they need a chair to sit down in. And also if they're hard to understand, ask them to repeat themselves until you kind of understand what's going on. And if it's okay, if he wants to sit down, anything like that.
They don't need 911 because they're having a stroke.
Also, yeah, so ask them, what kind of help do you need? Can I get you a chair? What kind of help do you need? Can you repeat what you're saying? Or let's communicate somehow. That's the best way to handle it. Don't hesitate to ask, because it could be like that. Something completely bizarre could be happening, and they're like, I don't know what's going on, but it's not right. I need some help. So,
I was that person not so long ago.
see, there you go. Yeah. And if you're lucky, sometimes there's a paramedic in line waiting to vote. That's happened too. I've seen that happen. So good answers. Thank you. A woman with no visible disability who claims that her dog is a service animal for people with disabilities. She has a dog, doesn't look like she has a disability, but she has an animal with her. What do? Good answer. So basically the answer was, the dog's not causing a problem, the service animal isn't causing a problem, just let the person vote. Good deal. Good answer. Good answer. What else? Y'all are acing this. Good job. I may just leave the bag of candy out for y'all to grab some on your way out. That's how proud I am of you. A woman who says that the perfume worn by other people in line is making her faint. Happens to me. What do you do in that scenario?
I would try to move her to the front of the line so that she can get out of there. I have a very good friend that has that problem.
Yes.
So I would just try to get her in and out as quickly as possible.
The perfect comment. That's one of those things that we can't necessarily see. We call that like a chemical sensitivity. And places are becoming more adherent to that. But yeah, some people's perfumes, or sometimes the detergent you wear or you wash your clothes with or whatever, it's not good for other people. And so in that case, move the individual to the front of the line or ask them if they want to sit down away from the line until their spot comes up. One of those two options is great to do.
But perfume is one of those things that it just permeates the whole
Right.
room.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter whether they're sitting or in a corner in there, it's still in there.
Right, so whatever works best for them. Did you have a comment, ma'am? Okay. Perfect, yeah.
Other people would get up. I think they can hear me. I talk.
Well, I think
Other
the AV people need to hear
me.
you.
I mean,
Yeah.
I hope. I would think that other people would be upset
Yes.
if you took them to the front of the line.
Yeah, and I think that's, as a judge, that's your call to make. You have the discretion to move them to the front of the line, or you don't have to move them to the front of the line, depending on what's happening at your polling site. Asking them if they want to step outside, maybe like cleanse their palate a little bit, that's cool, or just get somewhere where the smell isn't going to be offensive to them, that's a great thing. Those are good options. When I was in history class in high school, it was like after band, and people were really sweaty, and there was this one girl who would always spray vanilla scented body spray in the class, and to this day can't stand vanilla scented body spray. It was like, and I'm like, no, that smell drove me mad. So not that I get it, but I can sympathize, definitely. Did anybody else have a comment or question? I thought I saw some hands. Yes, ma'am.
I had a voter that was complaining about the dog, and she was allergic to the dog, so I had her vote and had her out and
there you
in
go.
and out.
Perfect, yeah. And I think that's great, just seeing what best works for them, and what, as a judge, you get to make those decisions. So whatever works best for the environment that you're in. Absolutely. Good job. So a person with another service dog one. A person with a service dog, which is the dog is barking constantly and jumping on people in line to vote. What do you do in that scenario? Yes, they're in the orange or pink or salmon coral shirt.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
What I did is I just told the woman that either she would have to leave the voting place or let me hold the dog for her.
Okay.
And she let me hold the dog.
Okay. Yeah, in that case,
Voted.
I think, yeah, like
I held
offering
it
if
out
you
of the
want.
way, so it's not bothering anybody, but that was the simple answer.
Right, so in that case, you said you can leave the voting place because your dog's being disruptive, or I can take the dog aside while you go vote, that's a good option. Or even saying, look, the dog's going to have to be removed, you're welcome to come back, but the dog's going to have to go. Or, like you said, I'm happy to hold, to hang out with your service animal until you're able to vote. These are all good options. But generally, you don't want to say, you got to go. Your dog's got to go. But you can stay. Yes, there was another comment. Curbside, oh, offer them the option of curbside. That's a good thing as well. Thank you. Yeah, good idea. Curbside is, I love it. Good, so let's see if that's it. Is that it? That's it.
Who said that? Who said curbside? That was like a great answer.
Yeah, if that's something they're comfortable with, then feel free to offer it to them. All right.
The only problem with curbside, you got to make sure that you're. We found when we were voting, or at the polling sites, that when we take the what is it called, the
machine thing,
the router.
Oh, okay.
Outside, we would lose.
Oh, like connectivity or whatever. Okay. Well, and that's, yeah. And if you find that issue, I think that's definitely something to call the office about, because that is something they should be aware of and on top of. Because nobody wants to start voting and then have it go blank all of a sudden.
If you're doing the machine, no, you have, and no, there's no paper.
So the question was for, there is the option of, or the comment was there's, when doing curbside, there's the option of doing paper ballots. And then the answer was that no, unless it's early voting. You have a paper ballot option, is that correct? No, just the machines. Oh, the provisional ballot is
You have
paper.
provisional, that's it. That's the only paper you have for early voting.
Right.
That's what we did for the last one. Just
So that there is an option of paper ballot for curbside? Yes. Okay.
We didn't do that.
Okay.
I believe we also have the option, if the person doesn't want to touch the screen, they can do a paper ballot and does not have to be a provisional.
Okay, cool. Any other comments or questions? I saw this gentleman with a, looked like he had a thought. Uh-oh. Looks like an official statement's going to be made.
No,
Look what
okay.
y'all did.
In regards to your answer, real quick. If the voter wants to vote a paper ballot just because they don't want to vote in the machine, they don't trust the system, then it's a provisional. Okay, it's a provisional.
Were there, I can't remember. Where are those ballots? Because the only ballots that we counted.
No, the paper ballot is going to be in the black bag, and that is for both provisional ballots and curbside ballots. It's the same ballot. And then just remember that during early voting, you have to make sure you give them the correct style. Yes. And then now with the e-poll books, it tells you ballot style number 6, 7, 8, which makes it easier for you now. Just make sure you give them the correct ballot.
Yeah, it was my mistake.
No, that's okay. Okay. Anybody else?
I'm adding notes. You're adding notes? That's right. Y'all are just so good, I'm adding to it. He's got a what?
A pending question.
Ooh, no pressure, okay. You're welcome to add the comment if you like, I don't mind. Hit me.
I don't want to speak until it's time.
Oh, well, I don't know, do we want to wait till the end? I'm intrigued.
I think you shouldn't cover the topic on purpose now.
So mysterious. Feel free to ask, yeah, comment.
This is all very good training on how to communicate with voters and whatnot. I have a internal policy with my crew that they are not to engage the voter in personal conversations while they're trying to vote, while the other voters are trying to vote. And I've had my share of disagreements with some of those coworkers and some of the alternate judges. And and I know Melissa has talked about it before, but we're there to see to it that the voter process is expedited and as polite and as accurate as possible. That does not include taking it upon yourself to talk to a voter, hey, just because I know you and this and that and hugs and kisses and all that, while there's other voters in line. And I'd like for you to just make sure that that is emphasized for future elections, because I think it's very disruptive, and that's my share.
What he said. I don't know if I can, that's going to be more, I'm going to leave that up to the county. That's more of y'all's thing. I'm not going to go on stance, and it's not personal. I'm just not going to go on stance saying that because I'm representing disability rights, Texas. But the county, y'all knock yourself out, for sure. Yes.
One of the alternates has a question.
Okay.
If by chance the voter, let's say they're Korean.
Okay.
They do not speak English and do not speak Spanish. What do they do in that case?
They're still entitled to a translator. So that individual can bring someone they know to translate, the English to Korean. Or the county will have to provide a translator and maybe even a ballot in that option that's in Korean. Because under ADA guidelines, language accessibility is a big thing. So if someone doesn't read or speak English, they still have to have that language provided for them as an accommodation. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but, sorry, the translator is fine as far as if they bring someone, but the current law is that if they make up 5% of the census, then we need to print ballots and we need to provide that language, somebody at each polling site. So right now, that is only Spanish here in, what was the other? With the Isaleta, yeah, the Tiwa. So right now, that the only two languages we're required by law to have on a ballot and have someone at every location would be Spanish. Tiwa was a oral language that they won't write down. So, so they are allowed to have a translator. You want to accommodate them as best as they can, but we do get that question a lot. Why don't we have other ballots? And the law requires that once that population in that county makes up 5%, then you do need to do that. So that's information you can have if they ask for that. But so right now, that's the only county, or that's the only language we have. There are other counties in Texas that have other language. There's counties
Harris
in
County?
California. Yeah, Harris
Got it
County.
all.
Houston has a ton. California counties have 50 languages, 40 languages.
Yeah.
So right now, that's where we're at. But if anybody does ask that, of course, they're allowed to have an interpreter, but we don't provide that.
I'm glad you brought that up, yeah, because by state law, you only have to provide a printed ballot, and I may be saying this incorrectly, but what is 5% of the census language representation? But interpretation services, no matter what the service is, should be available to the voter. So that's a good question. That's interesting about that other language. I didn't know that. I learned something. Yeah. Cool. So things to remember in general. You cannot question one's disability status, if it's legit or not. Just do whatever works best. Like you said, your job's there to help the person vote and make it an expedited process. So I would imagine the less ripples, the better in that scenario. Focus on, when trying to problem solve, focus on reasonable, doable solutions delivered in a responsive and courteous manner. Rely on the voter as an expert on how to best address the issue. Make every effort to ensure your voting area is set up in an accessible manner and remains free of barriers during your voting hours. So just making sure there's enough room for someone to maneuver around and access those voting machines. Also, it's not up to you to determine a person's registration qualifications or their competence to vote. Like we said, you're just kind of there. So if someone like my friend who has traumatic brain injury, he could probably, it's probably happened to him, he hasn't shared it with me, but he can walk into a place to vote and he'll talk and someone will be like, I don't know if you're able, I don't know if you have the competency level to vote. And people do that, not here, of course, because El Paso is perfect. But people do that across the place, yeah. People do that all over the place. They're like, I don't know if actually you are able to vote. I don't think you're competent enough. And so people will bring that into question for voters. And that's not really your job as poll. It's your job. I sympathize, but I'm not a poll worker. But good job, everybody. So it's not your job as a poll worker to make that determination. about one's competency level. That's determined by a court. It's your job. If they're registered to vote, just let them vote. If they need assistance, provide assistance. That's what everybody's here to do. Obviously, try not to embarrass anybody. Nobody likes to be embarrassed, but like the beautiful example we had earlier, try to make it as reasonable and private of a situation as possible. And then also just be okay with asking questions, you know? That's, I think, the secret to life. Just be okay with asking uncomfortable questions. And it may be uncomfortable for you, but it's not going to be uncomfortable for the other person. And y'all got this. Y'all are doing a good job already. Just keep on doing a good job. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, before we leave, I wanted to just, I guess, put it out there for all of the judges.
Please.
Since we're all judges here, I'm trusting that.
We're singing Kumbaya after this, so knock yourself out.
I think the best thing to do with working with people with disabilities is the fact that just remember the human part of it. Just because we are judges, it doesn't mean we are above anybody, including the people we work with. Unfortunately, I've had run-ins with a lot of people that state that judges mistreat the people they work with, mistreat the voters, and I think it basically comes down to basic customer service representation. We are representing the El Paso County. And therefore, I think we should take it upon ourselves, not just because we're judges, we're not above anybody else, we're not better than anybody else. And it does take a group to help us all work together.
There you go. Takes a village.
That is what I think is very important. Another important thing that I don't know if it has anything to do with disabilities, but just because we are judges doesn't mean that we have a right to mistreat people. And we can't be doing that.
Again,
and I think it's
obviously,
a very
yeah.
important thing for all of us to learn in general. If there's ever any questions that should arise because of our behavior, I don't think we should make people feel any less because they question our behavior.
Right. Yeah, and obviously not here, because El Paso's perfect. But
No,
sometimes,
we're not. We're not.
Sometimes there are people who are election judges that kind of get an ego trip.
Yes,
And,
exactly my point.
And I think, you know, we're all in it for the same thing. We're all doing the same job.
And we're all here for our voters. That's what we were hired to do.
We're here to help everybody vote.
Yes.
It takes a village. And so, that's right. So, there you go. So again, I'm here for questions. We have an hour worth of time, so if we want to do like a jigsaw puzzle, we can do that. If you have any questions, comments, please ask away, comment away. Above is my contact information. I'm Molly. My email address is up there. If you cannot see it, it's M Broadway, like the street, at drtx.org. My direct line is 512-407-2725. If I don't answer, it's just because I'm somewhere doing something like this elsewhere. So it's not personal. It's just I'm on the road a lot. Please feel free to leave a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. We have a voter rights hotline and an email address. Please access that information if needed. Come check out our website. There is a plethora. There's so much information on there about voters' rights and accommodations and interacting with voters that have disabilities. And yeah, so that's about all I have. I know that Lisa wants to put a bug in your ear about some things. But yes, thank you for your time. Yes, thank you. Yeah, yes, sir.
I was going to make a suggestion.
Okay.
That when you get to your voting site,
Yes.
find out who your maintenance people are at that location in case you have an accident.
There you go.
This goes back about 2 years ago. I had a major situation at Van Dorn Library. The line was long. A lady had a little girl with her. It was probably 5 or 6 years old. Lady was talking to somebody else. The girl scooped down and pooped. The mother grabbed the girl, ran into the bathroom.
Yeah.
I got called in. Some guy stepped in it and fell. It took 15 minutes to get maintenance in there to clean a mess up. People had poop all over their shoes for the next hour.
I feel like you probably bring out the
maintenance-
most interesting stories and situations.
Make sure you know who your maintenance guys are.
Yeah, yeah. Bring a plastic bag.
Yeah.
I'm still going to eat the chocolate.
Guys,
don't know.
I want to cover a few things, although that's pretty tough to follow. But
Yeah.
okay, so first
But
of all,
that's
I want to
good.
thank Molly. She comes out whenever we ask. They're just a great organization. And I would recommend that anybody here go on that website, look at stuff. It's very interesting. You don't have to go through us to contact her. I mean, you're welcome to contact her on your own if you have any issues. We did record this. That's why we were annoyingly passing that microphone around, because we want to make sure we're going to put it on our website. I would recommend that you all ask your clerks to review it, that anybody from Election Day, we did not invite Election Day for capacity reasons mostly, so we're going to recommend that all of them also view this, and just that we really start to make sure that this is kind of a habit, okay, of a pattern that we get comfortable with. And I know it's uncomfortable, the less we do it. The more we do it, the more comfortable we'll be, okay? So I just want to make sure we're working with the voters, we're doing everything we can, and I think this team is so good, and I really do appreciate our early voting judges, because we give you a lot to handle for long periods of time, and you guys do a really great job. I really couldn't ask for a better team on that. A couple things, we are going to, you should have all given your shirt sizes when you came in. We are going to start to provide early voting judges and alternates with 2 El Paso County shirts. If you're wanting more than 2, you'll have to pay. We don't know exactly what the price will be yet, okay? If your clerks want them, they're welcome to purchase them, but the county's only picking them up for judges and alternates, picking up the price. As soon as we know what that will be, we'll let you guys know, okay? The second,
I don't even get a shirt
No.
for my job.
no,
I don't even got a name tag.
we're still
They
on a
just
tight
send me
budget.
out.
It's not for everybody. We're still on a tight budget. But it does help identify, and we seem to have the same kind of crew on early voting for the most part, so it just makes sense to have some identification on you guys in the form of a shirt. So the other thing is, and this is kind of in line with what Molly talked about, we are currently working on getting a option for visually impaired for the vote by mail process, where they'll be able to use their readers and a software on their computer to fill out the ballot. There's no internet voting, but they'll be able to use that to fill out the ballot. It's just kind of like a DRE, and then they'll mail that back. So you'll get some information on that as we move forward with that. And also, we have a lot of changes coming, and you guys handled that e-poll book switch so beautifully. I was worried because I know that anything like that can affect how our quality of services, but moving from the laptops to the e-poll book, you guys really did a good job. Now we're going to go to Election Day. That's going to be a little bit tougher because everybody's used to using the paper, but hopefully we'll be able to get that through without any big issues. And then, as Molly mentioned, we're also going to go into a new voting system, hopefully by May. And this system is really great. So basically, it's kind of combines the paper ballot with the DRE, and we'll bring everybody in to look at it once we get funding, and I hope that's going to happen here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be trained on that. But it's a very simple system. I went through it on Monday, and I think you guys will enjoy it.